Yes. Now, last time we had a good look at, use case diagram. Let's revise this use case diagram where we get an idea how to basically build our, use case, how to basically clarify the requirement gathering in a scenario where we have understanding of a even complex to complex requirement with respect to the, scope we need to address, with respect to the actors or the users who are triggering these complex operation and so on and so forth. Okay, so let me start you, or anybody want to share their idea of use case? Anyone who want to share their idea what they understand by use case last time? I know we did it in a bit of heat of the hour, and we try to complete it as early as possible or something like that. But yeah, let's revise use case today, because use case is really important stuff, and we're going to need to learn this thing from a philosophical perspective, more or less, rather than fighting with something like just to get it complete for doing a business analyst or project management, that sort of stuff. So anybody want to explain what they understood by use case? Anybody? Give it a try. See, in management, there's no right or wrong here. But what we are trying to do, how much we understood and how soon we can progress it in case if there are any gaps or something like. Could you understand me, sir, madam?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So give it a try. Like,
Yes,
what you understood by use case? What use case does? Go ahead, please.
It is like a step-by-step process of how the users interact with the product.
Wow, good.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
I mean, it just shows the entire user journey of a user, whoever is using the application or the product, whatever has been designed.
Wow, this is really great.
Yeah.
Wow, perfect, ma'am. Thanks a lot. Does everybody understand what Chani ma'am have expressed? Anybody want to basically try their own version of use case diagram? See, please, unless and until we try, we don't know where we lag, right? So I would really encourage you to try. Again, there's no right or wrong here. We are just sharing our thought process. Okay. No problem. Let's go. Let me, revise the use case diagram. So use case diagram, a use case basically, as we normally call, is denoted in an oval shape, and it describes the sequence of actions performed by a user or by a system. By a user means an actor, by a system means a secondary actor. User is a prime actor. Whoever, let's say Ravindra goes for purchasing anything, right? So he might search for some item on Amazon. So Ravindra or customer is my actor, or what you normally call prime actor, normally denoted on the left hand side of use case diagrams. The use case describes the system behavior, how the system will respond to that user. So when Ravindra or whatever user search for a catalog on Amazon, how the system will respond. Let's say Ravindra was searching for a new mobile. He goes there and try to search for the best possible mobile. In this best possible mobile, of course, we normally go for the latest processor, the best possible display like OLED with HD and all those things. And Ravindra might have put in all those things in that category, and he might get 10-15 mobiles fit according to the fitment of his research, his search basically. So this is what we normally mean by search for item. I can describe these use case into multiple use case, but normally whenever we start very small. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to address how the system will respond to the action initiated by an actor. Does that make sense? Anybody have any contradiction, difficulties in understanding what I'm trying to say here?
No, sir.
We are good, right? Thank you. Thanks a lot. So use case describe the system's behavior or a response to an actor under various conditions. And these conditions are normally user clicked this button, that button, type this thing, type that thing, and so on and so forth, as it responds to a request from one of the stakeholders. So users are the stakeholders normally, right? As we seen, stakeholder, whoever have a keen interest in the application proceeding is normally called as a stakeholder, right? Including the developers, including the business analysts like us. So here we are talking or we are trying to understand how the system will respond to a given user or a given stakeholder. And these are normally referred as a primary actor and normally denoted on the left hand side of the diagram. The box represents the scope. So there could be release 1 scope, release 2 scope, phase 1 scope, phase 2 scope, and so on and so forth. So in the release 2, they are trying to add something like a search for item, that's like cataloging function. Then the customer can select one of those searched item and place the order. The system responds with the whatever payment has to be processed thereafter. I can add another use case. System processor have added another use case saying respond to payment. This much payment has to be processed by customers. So customer might go in terms of which bank account he want to select, card, whatever, online payment and all those things, and then he pays, and then the customer can ship the order as requested by the user to his or her place, and so on and so forth. So this is how a use case diagram is normally built. Okay, and this way we can clearly understand how we can basically analyze the requirement in terms of sequence of event to be responded by the system. So when it comes to something like enhanced enhanced attendance management system, whenever employees come, employees put a finger or an iris to the scanner and the system responds attendance noted, or name, time, and attendance noted. Depending upon the response, the the development team have been planned, or the system creator have been planned, and so on so forth. So this way we keep building our system in terms of how the system responds to a customer. Normally this is what happens in a given system. An actor initiate an action, the system responds in a way, a typical way. Now here we might have something like secondary actors. There are 1-2 secondary actors depending upon the system. Here actually the biometric system is responding to the customer in enhanced attendance management system. Okay, now attendance has been notified, and so on and so forth. So this way we are progressively build this requirement complexity. We progressively address this requirement complexity in a step-by-step manner. Okay, does anybody have any question at this moment?
No, sir.
Good. I believe you had a look at that great lady who were explaining you how this use case diagram to be created, various association, generalization, and blah 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 things, right? So let me take you forward. Let me try to share you that lady was diagramming with Lucid Chart. So Lucid Chart is a free website where you can draw your use case diagram. Please, I'll what you can say, share this link of Lucid Charts as well, as you can see on the screen, and you can have a look at it. Even Google have started in the G Suite. They added something called UML diagrams. Please have a look at these things. Okay, I'll share the ladies video again, because it's really one of the best explanation for a use case diagram in 9-10 minutes. So it's really great, right? Have anybody tried to jot down a diagram for making a tea? Can anybody have anybody started on that? Okay, no problem. Take a homework for today. Try to jot down that diagram for making tea or coffee. As we have seen here, the user, the customer can be me, myself. What I'll do, I'll collect the pot, fill with the water, or measure the sufficient amount of water there, put it on a gas, start the gas, add tea powder, add any masala, whatever you want to add, and whenever it comes to boil, after boiling, I might add milk, and then whatever sugar and sugar free, sugar cubes, whatever you want to add, and filter it to your cup and start drinking. That's a complete use case of a tea. So tea or coffee, construct a use case by your own. Even you can construct a use case of finding the efficient road to go to the office, to reach to the office. And this way we progressively understand how a complex requirement can be easily drafted in terms of use case diagrams. Okay, and please do try, because this is really important. Okay, let me move on. This is a kind of use case diagram for a person going to a hotel and ordering some food. Let's take a minute and try to describe this thing. So a waiter, a client or a client goes to a hotel. He basically calls a waiter. He orders a food. Does he orders a wine? Depends on his mood and all those things, time of the day, and various other factors here. So from order food, ordering wine is a extent. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But whenever this person, client, or the customer orders a food, the waiter informs the chef, and chef basically cooks the food. Then after the chef have cooked the food, the waiter serves the food, and then if wine has order, serve the wine. If wine has not order, you don't have to really work on that use case, but it's kind of optional use case. That's why it's extends. Okay, then client eats the food and again drink the wine. Then after eating the food, the waiter comes and basically gives him a what you can say, pay for the food, or the bill for the food. Then the customer goes to the cashier and pay for the food, pay for the wine. It's a simple enough, right? So here the wrong thing here is basically I share this use case diagram and request anybody to guide for the mistakes in this diagram. The prime mistakes is only the prime actor is normally mentioned. All the secondary actors are normally mentioned on the right hand side. So that was the first mistake. More or less, we normally have one actor and one prime actor and one secondary actor per use case diagram. This is a really complex use case diagram. But whenever you learn in depth, you might use such kind of diagram. Of course, the waiter has to be on the right side, the cashier has to be on the right side of the diagram. Otherwise, you might build such diagrams in case if you have really great practice in terms of building use case diagram. Does anybody have any questions on these? Questions on these? Yes, Bhargavi ma'am, please go ahead.
So just I wanted to make sure, so we do it, the use case for every user story?
No, ma'am.
Because
Really
okay,
great
we are
question.
doing
Thank you.
only one.
Yeah, thanks a lot for bringing that up. Normally, for a given SRS, there could be 3, 4, 5 at the max use case diagram. Normally, use case diagram we use to denote a complex response of a system. Something like have you heard of overdraft facility in a bank?
Yes.
Okay, now the overdraft, the way it works basically, whenever there is not sufficient fund in your account and there is a payment to be processed, so what you do, we normally request the bank to give you a overdraft facility. And whenever banks allows you to overdraft facility, there's a kind of small charges they levy across your overdrafts depending upon the amount, the duration, and blah blah things. But more or less, it's a facility given by a bank to a few customers. Because if bank giving overdraft to everybody, bank will go in loss, right? So in that scenario, that's how the overdraft facility, which is a bit of complex facility, because here we need to understand what are the prerequisite to sanction the overdraft, or the if there any particular customer have been sanctioned with the overdraft facility, and so on and so forth. So functionality like that, we might do a use case diagram where we need to explain a complex response given by the system, or complex process initiated by a user, and that's how we normally respond to it. Does that answer your question, Bhagam ma'am?
Yes, I have, I think still I'm in the confusion
Good.
state, maybe. Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Because when we take the requirement, when we
Uh-huh.
convert to user stories, right? So
Uh-huh.
all the user stories are different stories telling, right? So
That's right.
do you think we can accommodate in one user story with all the characters?
Yes, that's also another good question. Normally, all these user story are told by different user, right? Every user don't tell you same story, or they don't they couldn't
Yes.
accommodate all the stories. So normally
Yes.
there are different actors and there are different use case diagram. If even if you want to plot all these user story, basically user story is use case diagram from the user itself. So it's really easy to plot that way.
Mhm. Okay,
But
sir.
still, we don't go on just diagramming. This is normally used for the complex processes predominantly.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay, sure. Thank you. Rahul sir, please go ahead, sir.
Yes. So in this use diagram,
Uh-huh.
so I see the client is ordering a food, but first waiter reaches out to the client, right?
And gives
So
the menu. Great catch,
yeah.
sir. Yeah, yeah, that of course, you are right, sir. So let me do one thing.
So
I'll share the,
yeah.
this image also on the PPT. Please jot down your version of these diagram. This is much easier than, making a use case for a team. But believe me, when we've sat with the Grady Butch, he is the, founder of these use case or UML notations. He first basically let us sit for around an hour and try to build a use case diagram for making tea or coffee. Believe me, without any help. And it's like you're trying to, well, you can jot down a flow chart and then you can move to the use case diagram, or you can start with the use case diagram as me making tea for myself, making coffee for myself. So please do try. Otherwise, the other thing is, right, modify this diagram to the disciplines or rules we normally follow for the use case diagram. What are those rules? One actor per diagram, one prime actor per diagram, and that actor is on the left side. There's no secondary actor on the left side. Secondary actor is on the right side. And all these use cases, you don't have multiple folds here normally. You just have one fold. So first, whenever a client enters the hotel, there is one case, client enter a hotel or a restaurant. Now he asks for a table. The waiter, or whatever you want to label that, if you are French, you might use some different words, but let's call it waiter. Waiter, allocate the customer's seat and then hand over the menu. And this way the use case diagram starts. Okay, and try it out once. Try to have a complete processes in different use case diagram. You might have 5-6 use case diagram for a client entering the restaurant, ordering food, ordering wine or not, those scenario. Then the waiter might go to the chef, give the menu, or give some, ask some suggestions and so on so forth. So this way, even you can enhance the requirement or elaborate the requirement from a user story. Think like you are going to your favorite restaurant, how the steps will follow. Please jot down an use case diagram so that you'll get it very right. Okay, again, this is more or less to understand how use case diagram are denoted, how they are created. This is really a kind of life skill, if you ask me. So in a day-to-day life, if you find like some, complexion in planning something, you might use case diagram. You might use flow charts. Believe me, and it really helps us out. I still normally draw use case diagram whenever I think I'm in a mid of some, dual mind or not getting concrete plan for myself. So use case diagrams gives you all the alternatives here, all the options available, and then we might select one from them. Okay, and this way we progressively build these use case diagram. Just for one requirement, there could be multiple, use case diagram. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes.
Okay, no problem. Let me move on. Now the importance, this is really a modern tool. It's really evolved over last 20-25 years. So this is really, great. Basically, there was a thought process of initiating automated software development. Like you create use cases, you create user stories, you feed it to a software, and we get the code written by the software. And this was a idea which was basically picked up in 2008, 2009, 2010. So there are a good number of IDs, integrated development environments, who normally take these user story, use case diagrams and build code for you. Believe me, they build some abstract class layer and then another class on top of that. They use those oops concept and so on and so forth. So this is how progressively we can leverage this use case diagram to a level where we can create the code as well. Well, the idea was not really successful because of there are too many permutation combination, too many changes. Even good number of software company was also against it because they filed like, this is like you're trying to automate software development process. But at the end of the day, there were lots of challenges, maintenance issues and all those things. So they gave up that idea. But yes, this is how the use case are really important in terms of the day-to-day software development. Then we have, it's easy means of capturing functional requirement with a focus on value added to the user. And you might agree with me, It's relatively easy, believe me, to create a use case. Try it on your own and you'll understand. And it's basically capturing functional requirements. All the functional needs of a given software system users are captured here, and in a progressive manner, with a focus on how user wants it, or how the users is going to respond to a system at a particular juncture. Use cases are relatively easy to write and read compared to the traditional requirement methods. When you write requirements, most of the time the requirements are written in the English which I know, which is might different from the formal English or the guy who is reading because of the culture, education, and so on and so forth. But use case diagram are quite standard enough. And then use case forces developer to think from a user perspective, end user perspective, because they have initiated these use case diagram, and that's how, or they have initiated the process according to their need. That's why use case diagram are really great in terms of building these requirement gathering processes quite fun basically, or quite detailed enough. And then we have use case engage the user in a requirement process up to a great extent. The user's contribution in use case diagrams are really great, and even if you are doing use case diagrams sitting in isolation, you might basically start asking good number of questions, good number of new questions to get a detailed requirement. Once you try this, you'll get a hang of it. Does anybody have any questions on these use case of importance of use case? Okay, let me go ahead. Now, yes, another thing, basically the traceability. We've discussed about requirement traceability, but requirements are included in the document. So let's talk about the document traceability overall. So whatever document you create in a given organizations, be it a CMM 5UI, ISO 2001, or ITISM, and so on and so forth, we need to have some traceability in terms of document. Who have written it, when he have written it, what is name, when was the first draft created, how the document is being approved, sanctioned, and so on and so forth. So here you can see a table on the screen where we have a revision history as one table and document approval as a second table. These two tables are normally included in the first few pages of every document in a given organization. So here we have revision history. So we have date, description, author, and comments. As we talk about SRS, let's take an example of SRS here. So in the SRS, the date can be whatever you started the document to be drafted. It can be just after the first minutes of meeting as well. Again, depending upon the business analyst, updating the document frequency and all, he might start building the SRS on a given day. And then he might write the description as a draft. Draft means till the first approval, the version is draft. Okay, so it's normally denoted by 0.1, 0.1.0.0. And then we have author. So we have a business analyst name here as an author. You might say Ravindra Pande, business analyst for enhancing attendance management system. And the comments, and you can add comments, started draft after first MOM or after fifth MOM, dated so and so, so that you know how the SRS is being progressed, how long you are working on SRS. Many of these business analysts, they might put us here to make sure you have a definite work segregation in terms of day-to-day progression for a given document, right? And then document approval. So whenever you are through with draft, there could be 4-5 versions. So there could be 4-5 records in the revision history table. I might move to submit it to my RO or sales officer or a PMO, depending upon your organizational policies and procedures. You might submit your document to a given group of members or to a given single member for its approval. So he might sign, and normally these are digitally signed nowadays, his name, his title, and a date when he sanctioned his first document. If he might basically say no, this is not the right thing, so he might add some comments here. Rather than approving it, he says no, we need to update such and such chapters, such and such paragraph with such and such content which is missing, and so on and so forth as well. So there could be additional table, modifications or suggestions as well. Okay, and it might have a similar column name as the document approval process. And these are normally kept in every document whatever you upload to the cloud. Nowadays we upload every document to the cloud. So in a sequence, we might have these documents updated recursively every day for the first few weeks. And once we are stabilize the requirement, we might hand it over these documents to the project manager saying, hey, project manager, please have a SRS for enhancing attendance management system for a state farm and so on and so forth. Normally, the document names are quite longer. That's why document names are not included in this revision history. The document names are clearly mentioned in the first page of the document. And then we might have a disclaimer, we might have a NOC, and then we might have this document traceability page. And here, most of the organizations go by a standard thumb rules, but some of the documents might have document traceability tables on the first page. They might call as a requirement traceability. But yeah, requirement traceability is separate table. But many times the name of the document, as we seen, like SRS, BRD, and people, try to go away from the standardization or the best practices. But more or less, we need to understand how we can be, adhere to these practices. Try to use the best practices available for a given documentation, for a given progressive, artifact updation. Okay, and this way we normally build some document traceability. We're going to of course learn the requirement traceability in a couple of slides, but document traceability gives you a good idea of who created, when created, who approved, when approved, and what's the reason of that document overall, and so on and so forth. Does that make sense to you?
Sir, I have a question.
Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so this document traceability, so for example, like you just tell us about the SRS, like when we start building SRS. So in the initial pages, we will have this document traceability as well. So we will keep updating this document like version 1, 2, 3 until we finalize the whole SRS and get approved to forward it to the project manager, right?
Right.
So like we will do the same thing for every document, like every important document we're gonna like build until like we get approval from the higher management or like the project manager or whoever the person who's gonna like
Yes.
approve this document until
Normally, see, as a business analyst, you just have one document called SRS, and you normally include everything there, including the use case diagram, the work, the flow chart or workflow diagrams or SWOT diagrams or fishbone diagrams, high level diagrams. Everything is included in a single document as far as an output or a result of a business analyst. So as a business analyst, you just have to be, filling with the one document specifically. But when you move to, project manager chairs, you are the approving authority for quite a few documents, including functional specification, project plans, and so on and so forth. And many documents, even the project manager also creates. So all these documents normally have these traceability matrices inbuilt. Does that answer your question, sir?
So like as analyst, like we will only be doing most of the cases like just and everything will be document like flow chart and all, like you said. So for example, like if we start building SRS today, so we build the MOM and every minutes of meeting and other requirements, we just listed requirements in the SRS and all. And tomorrow we work on flow chart. So we're gonna like update this traceability metrics every day. Like yesterday we built and like we create the MOM, and today we create the flow chart and etc. like this. Like
Sir, yeah, whenever you update a document, these document traceability is definitely going to get updated. And that's how the overall, what you can say, modification of a document to be traced out to its originality. And it's a simple process rather than, complicating it. Once you start learning it, it's just like, a kind of habit. And this way, every, good organizations or the organizations with quality policies like CMMI, FIU, ISO, IT, ISM, Six Sigma, and all those things, they want to understand who have modified the document and why. Or in a progressive manner, how that document is getting built up in a step-by-step progressive step. And that's why you normally have this traceability. So every time you update the document, you normally update this traceability. It's just a single row. You can just copy the
Yeah,
first,
that's
3 entities, and you can just add some comments. Yeah, please go ahead, sir. Sorry.
yeah, that's what I had in my mind. I was just trying to like find the exact words to explain you, but you explained it very well. That's what I was confirming from you. Like, is this what whatever like I'm understanding right now? Is
Mhm.
this like a basic a routine for a BA to update every time? Like whenever like they're gonna update the SRS or move on further with the process to complete the SRS, they're gonna update this traceability document. That's it. It's just
That's
for
right.
this, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
very right, said, sir. Very rightly
Okay.
said. Okay,
Thank you.
thanks a lot. Anybody else have any question on document traceability? Okay, and whenever you join an organization, normally they have something like induction workshop, a consultant induction workshop or an employee induction workshop. There they try to guide you what type of quality product policies they have adopted, what type of rule books we normally follow whenever you work as a business analyst, as a project manager, as a product owner, and so on and so forth. And these are all standard procedures, and where you normally have to have, these are called SOP, standard operating procedures. So whenever you do things, even if you go to FBI, and you might have find quite a good amount of satire on FBI's SOP. If you watch a Die Hard as a movie, means Die Hard first, anybody here who have watched that movie Die Hard first?
Yes.
John McClane's? No?
Yes.
Oh. It's a bit older movie, like I think around 10-15 years. There, the police officers make this statement. Oh, now FBI is here. Now they'll go with their SOP. And believe me, they have a standard procedure of whenever there's a hacking, theft, robbery going on. What they do, they normally switch off the power of a given block or adjacent blocks, depending upon the person in charge there. He might give an order to switch off electricity, water, and everything for that block. This is their standard procedure. It's a really great matured processes, but this is how other people might make fun of you due to these repetitive steps you normally follow. Does that make sense? Could you understand now why it's so important? Because it makes it uniform. So even if the business analyst have changed throughout the process, he might find this traceability quite useful. Like this referred from that document, this referred from this document, and everything as well. Okay. Anybody have any questions at this moment? Okay, let me go. Now let's try with the most created document by business analyst is minutes of meeting. We create these minutes of meeting for every meeting. Mostly business analyst is a person who is responsible for creating business, who normally calls for a meeting, and he normally takes record of this meeting, create these what he call artifacts. Artifacts in the sense, whatever you have done, you should have an artifact. Like you have given an exam, you should have a result to prove it, right? Like you have attended so many papers, and so on and so forth. So here, like minutes of meeting is normally a document created as an artifact for describing what all happened in that minutes in that meetings. Okay, the minutes of meetings are official summary of what happened during the meeting. They serve as outline, a written record for anyone unable to attend, and to use the future references as well. The minutes document what happened and what decisions are mentioned in these minutes of meeting. When written well and when using the good meetings template, minutes are a critical communication tool for your organization, because whenever you take a meeting, there are some decision made, there are some action item allocated, and there are some deadline sets. And that's why minutes of meeting collect all such scenarios, all such things. Here are some necessary information found in most of the meetings. The title of the group that is meeting together. So it's like a meeting for discussion on enhancement of attendance management solution for a so and such date, for a client state farm, number of attendees, name of the scribe, name of the business analyst, and so on and so forth. The date and time when the meeting has been held, as well as the venue of the meeting room, if it's online, be it online, Zoom, Google, whatever. who is in attendance, who all are attend that meeting personally, be it a Zoom, Google. We normally record the meeting online as well. And then meetings agenda, which are circulated for so many, circulated by whom, who called this meeting, and so on and so forth. Then what are the decisions are made in the meetings, by whom, who have initiated, who have supported, and so on and so forth. Motions and vote counts, if there are votes, so who all have casted their vote against, pro, and so on and so forth. Okay, let me share a video with you, which is really a great guidance point, or they give you a really great what you can say, great help for writing a best minutes of meeting. Okay, let me open this. Give me a minute please to start that video. Where is that? Here the lady is explaining to us. Give me a minute. Oh, sorry. No problem. It's a simple thing basically, and I'll explain again. So what we have did, we had applied a filter by going to the home tab, and there's a this sort and filter. Could you see the icon again? Here I have clicked, and I have clicked on I can clear the filter. So these filters are off, or I can go and filter it again. Okay, so here I'll filter. Now this filter, I can do all sort of a sorting, even in terms of these alphabets. I can do A to Z and Z to E. So let's do A to Z. So yes, all the titles have been what you can say sorted. I'll just remove that sorting, or I can go to author and I can do A to Z sorting of these things also. So D comes first, and so on and so forth. So this way you can play around with the Excel. Again, I'll repeat, my record is my row, my types are my columns, or categories are my columns. And this is how we normally represent one table per sheet. I can have another table created in another sheets. I can have multiple sheets in an Excel the way I want. Okay, and then there are various functions I can apply. So if I want to add these two, what I'll do, I'll say equal to here. Okay, I'll click here, I'll click on plus, and I'll click on this, and I'll say enter. So this is a addition to this. Same thing I can do with the subscription. This is what we call function box. So here, whatever I need to do, I can do like this. I can press enter. So yes, the result is -1. Same I can do with the star is a multiplication, and this / as a division. Could you understand this? Do practice on your own. This is a simple Excel sheet. So you want to do all the financial calculation, you can do it over here. If you want to add a total summation here, you can use a function like sum, or there is a sigma. This sigma normally what you can say applied as a summation of all. So automatically add it up, your total will appear after the selected cell. So I'll say C, and I'm going to select the cell from bottom to top, because bottom, and I'll press enter. No, okay, let me do it again. Yeah, now I can as you can see, the summation is here, and this is a function called sum, D2 to D10. So D is basically D2 to D10. This is D10. Could you understand what I'm trying to do here? Any question? Oh, come on. I want to increase the width of this column, not move. Come on. Yes. SUM. Okay, enter. So this is my sum overall. And if I change my figure, the sum also get changed on the fly. Try around with this thing, play around with this thing, and you'll understand how we can play with the Excel sheet. Okay, let me close this thing. No, save, I don't care. Now let me go back to the presentation, and we do use Excel as a kind of important tool for the business analyst in many cases here. Now about the chart, I do have another really great video where the person's is explaining the chart within the least possible time. First, think about what kind of information you have, what kind of inputs you have, and then you normally try to apply the chart type or graph type accordingly. There are three kinds of inputs. It could be time, measured temperature over every 5 minutes. It is numerical, like measure height of a catapult projectile at a different distance away from the catapult. And then we have like population table and everything. And on top of this graph, we might have pivot tables, which will give you a really refined view of these data analysis. Okay, let me take you to the next slide where we'll try to understand. Where is the graph chart? Let's see. Okay, now let's talk about choosing a right graph here. Right now, here I have a really great video. Let me pause the recording, and this guy is going to explain you 10 different. So basically, try to build a kind of home expense sheet where we might have all the records in terms of your malls visit, your gas filling in your vehicle on your record, and on category I might have columns like a gas expenditure, electricity expenditure, expenditure on groceries, or you can categorize groceries also, and so on and so forth. So you can have a clear idea of how you are spending your hard-earned money, and how we can control it, which is of more priority, which is of less priority, and you can apply these into different charts where you can understand where am I spending the most, and so on and so forth. Please do try, and it'll give you a really good idea of how to control your expenses progressively. Okay, if you can do the use case diagram in the next session, please do bring, and we will share that thing, and we'll try to discuss if there are any shortcomings or something like that. Okay, does anybody have any question for me at this moment?
No, sir.
We are good, right? No problem. Let me share this video, and you can learn on these things as a tools of a business analyst. Okay, let's meet a day after tomorrow again, and we'll try to do some hands-on charts. I'll show you the pie chart and all those things with a hands-on experience. So you can also, if you have missed anything, even these recording, we can do it together. Okay, chalo then. Let's stop here. Thanks a lot for your time. Have a good night. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.